men. Why didn't he pick people who were just as loyal but not so inflammatory?
He wants to basically destroy government in the way that we know it. And I actually don't mean that in a negative way. Some people hear that and think that it's negative. But, I mean, there's a huge movement on the right that wants to remake the administrative state, as they call it, and really wants to shake things up. Donald Trump now thinks he has a mandate. That's one reason. It's the sort of philosophical reason. The other reason is that by putting these people there who are very inflammatory, he is forcing the only check on his power, which is going to be, if you can believe it, Republicans in Congress to early and quickly bend the knee. And if he can force this through Congress without any blowback, then he knows that whatever he tries later on is going to be easy sailing. So you think part of this is to make picks that are purposely unpalatable and say, eat it? Yep.
Yeah.
Do you agree with that, Brian?
Well, I think that...
we'll get to the specifics in a moment.
Of course. Lulu's first observation strikes me as exactly right. For example, Pete Hegseth is someone who is a television personality. Why is he being picked as defense secretary? I think the argument is that we are going to need, the Trump team that is, he believes that his team is going to need a very effective communicator because they're going to be very aggressive. They're going to look to actually sack generals. They're going to look to seek big, ambitious structural changes when it comes to defense contracting, the defense industrial base. So I think that he absolutely wants big change, and he thinks this is the team that's going to get it for him.
All right, so let's talk about that. The Secretary of Defense oversees 2.8 million civilian and military personnel and a budget of $842 billion. Pete Hegseth has never run any large organization, but he has plenty of opinions.
Any general that was involved, general, admiral, whatever, that was involved in any of the DEI woke it's got to go. I'm straight up just saying we should not have women in combat roles.
Diversity is not our strength, Hugh. I mean, this is the kind of thing these generals peddle.
Pete Hegseth, Kara?
Yeah, I have a cold. I'm really sorry. Yeah, it's like the Star Wars cantina here. I don't know who's going to come up next. He's doing it all for show and to create a TV show in a way. It feels a little like The Apprentice to me. And he just wants to, he's going to make all the decisions anyway. So he has all these people
I have to say, you're doing a pretty good Robert F. Kennedy Jr.
Thank you
impression.
very much. Except I do vaccines.
Well, I mean, doesn't that bother you, Raihan, the fact that this is a guy? I mean, it's the biggest organization in America. So why would you put a guy who's never run anything? Look, let me be clear. Pete Hegseth served in the military with distinction, received 2 Bronze Stars. I'm in no way denigrating his service. But this is a job, a big job for somebody who knows how to run a big organization.
It's a really big organization, and it's an organization where that deputy, the Undersecretary of Defense for Policy, there are a lot of roles there that are going to be really important when it comes to the nitty-gritty of how that place is governed. The question is whether you need an effective communicator who is aligned at the top of that organization. Pete Hegseth is not the person I would have picked, but I do believe that they do have a big communications challenge ahead, and I think that that's what he felt he did not have during his first presidency. Effective communicators who could take heat and then advance a really different radical argument.
Make the counter-argument that Please. What he didn't have in his first term were people who would bend the knee or salute smartly and say, yes, sir. I mean, we know how many times Defense Secretary Jim Mattis pushed back on Trump initiatives in national security. Is that what he's looking for?
Well, another view is that Secretary Mattis was someone who's a creature of the Defense Department, of the defense establishment, and someone who is not looking to disrupt it, but rather someone who's looking to protect it from what he saw as a disruptive president. Needless to say, from the perspective of that president, he didn't love that idea.
Question here, though, and I really am curious about this. How I understand the need to disrupt and destroy, that this is the mandate. How is this going to protect America? The Defense Department is very crucial. I have a limited understanding, having been a foreign correspondent for most of my career, in actually protecting Americans and their lives.
So it's a great question. And I think part of the reason why somebody like Pete Hegseth gets picked, even though he is mostly known to viewers of this show probably as a TV host, is not just that he's loyal, but that he's aligned. I don't think it's just that Donald Trump is picking people who are empty vessels who will just say, yes, sir, whatever you want. Pete Hegseth is somebody who has a very extensive public record of what he thinks about defense, the need to refocus the Pentagon on being the most lethal war-fighting machine in the world. And so I don't think it's just that he's somebody who will say yes, sir, to Donald Trump. I think it's that Donald Trump and Pete Hegseth agree on what the Pentagon ought to look like.
All right. One more. Matt Gaetz for Attorney General.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm so glad I have laryngitis right now because the things I can say. I think these are all unctuous toadies, every one of them, almost completely. And they'll do what he says, and that's really pretty much it. And Donald Trump will run everything from the White House. And he wants utter control, which is why he's doing the same thing with the Senate. He wants complete control of the entire process. And I understand that they're aligned. But this guy, come on, stop.
We're going to get to the process in the Senate in the next
all
segment.
Of them,
But just to finish this up, Reihan, are you comfortable with Matt Gaetz, with all of his baggage, with all of his opposition, as the chief law enforcement officer of the United States?
It ultimately doesn't matter what I think. It matters what Republican senators think.
No, but I'm asking
and my
you,
guess,
because you're the guest on the
Come
show.
on.
But you said, I'm an analyst here. That's my role on the show. And what I will say is that
you sound like one of those senators, incidentally, ducking the question.
Well, what I'll say is that Republican senators, there are a lot of them who have serious misgivings, and there are a lot of them who are going to want to fire a shot across the bow and demonstrate the independence of their branch of government this time around. So I think that that's going to be a big concern for President-elect Trump and for Matt Gaetz.
All right. We're going to get right to that. The next step for all those picks is Senate confirmation. Or